you can be in the same situation as someone else and have a completely different mindset. So whereas I saw it as a positive activity, even though it went wrong, but it was a positive because I'm able to learn and problem solve, and I found that actually quite fun. My colleague, on the other hand, obviously she was the lead rotating equipment engineer. She did not have that mindset. So what led to that was she was asked to go back on shore to calm down and relax. I was told to extend my time offshore, and I'm definitely going to be told to go back. So what I learned from that, which they don't tend to teach in university, is things will go wrong. And when they do, because they will go wrong, and when they do, it's really how do you deal with it when it goes wrong? How do you pick yourself up, learn from it, and then ensure that it doesn't happen again?
Hey there, inSTEM fam. Welcome back to another episode of inSTEM Podcast. I'm your host, Tolu, and as always, I'm excited to bring you another conversation that is packed with value, tips for personal and professional growth, and real insights from real people. Today's episode is very special as we have a leader in our guest seat. She is a chemical engineer with an impressive 20-year career in the energy industry. She's also worked internationally across the UK and America. And beyond that, she is a board member and a mentor. Please join me in welcoming the amazing Taiwo Oyewole. Welcome to inSTEM, Taiwo.
Hi, Tolu. How are you?
Good. Thank you. I love the fact that we're matching. We're wearing yellow.
Great minds think alike.
Yes, we didn't plan that, by the way, and I'm already excited for the amazing conversation that we're going to have. So we are going to be delving into mindset. I love talking about mindset, and we're going to be talking about the mindsets and strategies that Taiwo has employed in a career to build the amazing success story that you're going to be hearing about today. Get ready to be inspired. Right, so let's get into it. So we normally start with an icebreaker question, and your icebreaker question is there a book or a person that you've encountered, a book you've read or a person you've encountered whose mindset you've truly admired?
I would definitely say more person that I've encountered. Okay. And so I've worked in the energy sector. I currently work in the energy sector. I've met many different types of characters, and I would definitely say one of my mentors, who's become a friend actually now. I've known him for many years, over a decade now, and his mindset in terms of navigating work, career, life is something that I've tried to emulate in my own career. And his resilience in the energy sector, he's become more outside of a mentor. It's more of a kind of a holistic kind of mentor, life, family, work. Yeah, so I've tried to kind of emulate and learn from him and his career.
That's amazing. It's great that you've been able to find someone like that at work, and that their advice and their wisdom extends beyond like career, and like you can actually apply it to life. I think that's amazing. So going into like the first question now, I remember my very naive early career days and just quickly realizing that the world of industry was on its own curriculum, which was very different to university. They definitely didn't teach us that at university moments. I'm wondering, did you have such moments, and how did you change your mindset to address that reality?
When I first started working in the energy sector, I was working offshore, and I was commissioning my first project offshore in the North Sea, during winter.
Wow.
So extremely cold and dark, it's in Aberdeen, the sunlight goes down. We stopped having kind of sunlight from about 3 p.m. onwards. And it's going to be around 6 to 7 months, maybe even 9 months of commissioning. 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Tends to be the schedule. And I remember, so I was part of the design team, designing the various different types of technical units offshore. So you have a separator, a compressor, so it was a compression module. And everything that could have gone wrong, went wrong. in the sense of all the instruments that one would use to measure kind of critical kind of technical points in on the assets, so pressures, temperatures, flow rates. All of it went wrong. So that was my kind of responsibility. I was looking after the separator. My colleagues, she was more senior than myself, so she was managing the compression unit, and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Now, she handled it in a completely different way to how I handled it. For me, I found it very interesting, and I found it fun to try and problem solve how to get things up and running. And I learned from my seniors who were also trying to problem solve how to get everything up and running. She, however, handled it in a way of complete distress. She was quite notably upset. Actually, the manager at the time told me to speak to her woman to woman, to try and to coach her, which she was a senior engineer more so than myself. So I would say what I learned from that is things go wrong, and you can be in the same situation as someone else and have a completely different mindset. So whereas I saw it as a positive activity, even though it went wrong, but it was a positive because I'm able to learn and problem solve, and I found that actually quite fun. My colleague, on the other hand, obviously she was the lead rotating equipment engineer. She did not have that mindset. So what led to that was she was asked to go back on shore to calm down and relax. I was told to extend my time offshore, and I'm definitely going to be told to go back. So what I learned from that, which they don't tend to teach in university, is things will go wrong. And when they do, because they will go wrong, and when they do, it's really how do you deal with it when it goes wrong?
Yeah.
How do you pick yourself up, learn from it, and then ensure that it doesn't happen again?
Yeah. That really resonates with me, because I think I'm more like the other lady when I first started out. And I think actually the turning point in my career is actually going into something knowing that it could go wrong, and just having that mindset that I will deal with it, if it goes wrong. The start of my career, I certainly had, felt easily overwhelmed, distressed. So I want to know, given that you exhibited that mindset so early on, would you say it's innate then? Like, what environment?
It's very interesting.
Like, how did you have such a mindset so early on in your career?
I will tell you a story. It occurred during university, and my friends who've heard this story quite a few times, some of them experienced this event with me. So I was in my first year of university, and in university, there's an exam you have to do to pass. It does not count towards your degree, but you have to get 80% mark to pass, and they call it mastery. I've never failed an exam before. And the way they call you into the room, they line you up in a corridor, and they call you by your name. And, as Nigerians, we're all next to each other. We have similar surnames. So they call you into the room, you have the lecturer standing across from you, and they'll tell you, if you pass or fail, and, you have to do the retake. So in first year of university, they called me into the room, and, I was sitting across from the lecturers, and they said, "Oh, you were so close, but, you didn't pass." I said, "So what does that mean?" They said, "So you will have to redo the exam." I said, "I don't understand." And to cut a story short, I actually literally had a breakdown. They had to call my friends into the room to come and collect me. My parents, I was staying in student halls in first year. I told my parents, "Look, I feel like I'm having way too much fun. I need to come back home." So I definitely over-exaggerated the situation. But it was, after going through that, we did the retake, and it went fine. I passed, obviously. But what I learned from that is, when things happen, you can definitely have time to mourn. Take the time to mourn and get that emotion out. But next is, how do you solve the situation? How do you ensure that the outcome is going to be different next time? That's the more important part. So I tend to have my time out to, mourn, and then, make sure I go through that process. And next is to ensure that I problem solve and work my way through it. So I would say it's not been an instant an immediate skill, but over time it's happened, and I've rinsed, repeat, and recycled that skill set to be able to effectively go through negative situations quite quickly.
That's amazing. And maybe with hindsight now, you're looking back at that investment and thinking it's a blessing that you had it so early on, because by the time you started out in industry, you were already set, prepped for challenging situations and negative situations. That point deeply resonates with me. I know you've said it so simply and in a relaxed manner, but I remember one of the first point in my career where I could have gotten promotion or gotten an opportunity to take on a role with more responsibility. The reason I didn't get it, according to my manager, and which I don't think was the right response necessarily, but it's fact, right? He said, because I noticed that you can get overwhelmed easily, even in your current role. So if you're going into this next role with more responsibility, like I don't have the confidence. Of course, I don't agree with the approach of delivery, and it should have, helped me to get to the next role. So this is where you are, this is where you can get to. But I'm just tying it back to your point as to, really being able to withstand negative situations is incredibly powerful. So as a result of that experience, I changed my mindset, and that really is now become when I work with leaders, a lot of them say, your ability to be calm under pressure is one of your greatest gifts. It's crazy. So that experience propelled that shift in mindset for me. So hopefully someone listening will take a note of that. So moving on to the next question now. I alluded to in your introduction that you've built an incredible 20-year career in the energy industry, and you're working for one of the industry leaders as well. You've also worked internationally in America, in the UK, within the energy industry. The energy industry is known to be tough. I have a lot of friends and contacts who work in that sector, and it's also faced a lot of crises, energy crisis, economic crisis, and so on. And it's also historically male dominated. So you've all of these factors. How have you been able to forge not just an amazing career? Let me rephrase the question. How have you survived and even thrive? Because you're not just surviving, you are thriving. You've built a thriving career. So I want to know, what are the core belief systems and mindsets that have helped you to thrive in that environment?
I mean, thank you for all the compliments. I would always there's a few different types of mindsets. One is something, it's coming from a Nigerian home, and our parents are very strong on us. Tough, very strong. But then also but it's good because it gives us, they install us with a certain level of confidence. So that's number one. So having that confidence that you can achieve is something that's innate in my family and in my upbringing. So that's one thing. Number two, I would say, is being very resilient. So if it doesn't work one way, there's many ways to the top of the mountain. So again, that lends itself to problem solving. So thinking about how to do things and how you're going to get there. Another one is I'm always long-term. I'm very much into long-term thinking. So when I joined the energy sector, I knew I did not want to be a technical expert, but I definitely knew I needed to have the technical grounding. So as a grad in the sector, I had already secured my mentor in the commercial team on the first week of working, because I went to him and said, look, I feel like I'm only going to be here for a couple of years. And I think he, kind of looked at me like, I'm a planner, so I plan everything. So I'm thinking 5-10 years ahead. So I do think that's helped me, because it's allowed me to at least have some options and foresee some of these macro and micro kind of economic events before they take place. Because I think to be successful in any sector, you need to have optionality. So you cannot just do one skill set, you have to do multiple. So with that being said, if you have multiple skill sets, most likely you will have some form of longevity. Now you want to make sure you don't have too many, because then you'd be too broad. But at least, exactly. But at least have a common thread. So I made sure I did technical for about 10 years before diversifying. But I took a step out in between those, and I did technical in different types of assets. So technical offshore, technical and onshore. I did technical downstream. So it's all technical it's all about applying my technical skills, but it's in different environments. So that gives me optionality while ensuring I have a core skill sets. So I guess to answer your question, how have I managed to stay in the industry for so long? It's ensuring I have optionality, ensuring I'm ambitious and resilient, ensuring I'm forward thinking.
Yes.
And then there's a little bit of achievement there, with a slight
Yeah.
cockiness,
Yeah.
which is allowed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think those are some of the key skill sets.
Amazing.
And maybe the last one to sum all of that up is, something my nephew says. Actually, he says, if it doesn't work, try again.
Wow. He's wise
Yeah,
already.
Six.
Six is saying that. Yeah. Amazing answers. I think the long-term thinking one really deeply resonates with me. I think we live in such a fast-paced world, and we're very like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? But I love what you said about, you knew that you were gonna, do commercial roles eventually, and that allowed you and informed your decision to choose a commercial focused mentor in the first week, meaning that even though you weren't working in commercial roles, you started to build the bridge there. So I think that's really good. You've leveraged your upbringing as well. Sounds like you've got like a strong upbringing where you're instilled with a great amount of confidence, and also like, go and get it. Like, you got to achieve great things in life. And those are amazing answers. They really resonate with me. Still on the same, trajectory, I've said a few times, you've worked internationally. You also have an MBA from London Business School, one of the best business schools in the world. You're a strategy executive as well. So I've not called out your role yet, but you are a senior executive at your company.
Indeed.
Did you know that you were going to obtain all of these milestones and achievements at the start of your career? Or did you find your ambition evolving over time?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to be a senior leader. Yeah, but I didn't know, in what realm. Yeah. So I didn't know if I wanted to be a technical leader or a commercial leader, or So with experience comes more intel. Yeah. So there's strategy consultants. There's private equity in the energy sector. So it's still linked to the energy sector. So there's different. So the energy sector is extremely large. Yeah. So I definitely knew I wanted to stay in the energy sector because it's such a big sector to play in, and there's so many different types of avenues. But definitely, as I've progressed in the sector, it gives me new data points. So, and then I actually think, okay, so when I see my senior leaders doing those roles, how do I feel? Yeah. Do I feel like I want to do it, or do I not? And then I kind of alter my ambition slightly. But I think what's core is trying to figure out what's the most senior part of anything in that business, and whether I would enjoy working in it. Right. And I'm not going to be working like 40 or whatever, like 24 hours a day, because I know that wouldn't lend itself to what I want to achieve long term. No point. I can do that early on, but not long term. So I know what I can do and what I can't do. So with that being said, so I knew definitely. But I do think there's core themes such as the wanting to achieve, wanting to make a positive impact, kind of access to energy for all, and mentoring. Being able to mentor like-minded professionals in the sector. So anything that allows me to do that, have something that is linked to the technical side, but it has commercial delivery, is something I think I would love to achieve long term, in a more senior, framework or role, so I can have the maximum impact.
That's amazing. I think there's so much to unpack from that answer, in that firstly, like, you are an ambitious person. It's very evident, from your answers. You're a go-getter. But I love the fact that you're ambitious with purpose. So it's not just about, striving for the best or the most senior position, but you constantly mention, I often assessed whether I'd enjoy it. I observed, those who were in those roles and saw whether or not it's something I would enjoy. I love the fact that there is flexibility as well in your mindset. you had some sort of a plan to start with, but you said something that really struck me. With experience comes intel. So the more data points you gather, the more you're willing to go back and refine, what it is. And I think we need to do that. I think that really speaks to me, because I know I can be very, this is what I want to do, and maybe somewhat rigid, but I think, with more experience, like, it's fine to flex things up and change things up a little bit. And I just love the bit about purpose, the fact that as much as you wanted to achieve, as much as you were ambitious, you wanted to make impact, you wanted to mentor people, you wanted, to, so to speak, pass the ladder down so other people climb up. So I think that's amazing. For those, so there are three, main achievements I called out in the first answer. So MBA, working internationally, being a strategy executive. Were there any consistent mindsets that you adopted to achieve any of those goals, or where there were different mindsets? Where would you say that you had to change it up a little bit?
So I've worked in different parts of the business, and any time, whenever I go to a new part of the business, I always think to myself, okay, so how can I thrive, and how can I make a lasting legacy that's different to what already exists in the business, in the team. So I think that would be the most common, is the lasting impacts and legacies in each of those different teams. So when I did my MBA, I made sure I did a lot of different extracurricular activities, and then I did panel sessions, and I wanted to ensure
I attended one of those.
And I made sure I wanted to have some ethnic minority women on the panel sessions, because I felt like we didn't see many of those when I was there. So that was very important for me, and that's how I felt I made an impact. Then, strategy, I definitely apply a lot more core principles, because, again, being an engineer, I'm very data focused. So a lot of my strategy projects are very data centric, with understanding some of these kind of strategic guiding principles. So that has been notable in terms of working in the strategy sector. Within the engineering sector, being, again, very specific about how I'm going to do my calculations, and creating a template. I used to do a lot of that for kind of my team members and for the business, so that we're not having to redo calculations ourselves. So
efficiency.
So leaving a lasting legacy has been the common theme, which lends itself to wanting to achieve. Because I always feel like it would just be boring to do the same thing that everyone else is doing. So you might as well try and think about how best can you make an impact. And I think that's definitely been something that's consistent. Is what am I going to make different?
Oh, I love that.
In this business.
It's a very necessary question to ask at each step. So I love that. I know you started out with, giving an example of a challenging experience at the start of your career, but I also want to get another example. Maybe, we're talking about this amazing career. I was going to say, have you faced any resistances? Of course you have, right? It's part and parcel of life. And is there one that stands out, and what was the mindset, you employed to overcome that resistance, to get really what you wanted out of that situation?
There's been so many examples. And so in my previous role, I was the working as a kind of a regional kind of optimization manager, looking at the whole value chain, from crude to refining to products to trading to sales. So it's a very complex value chain. I was at the center of it, with more responsibility, with more businesses come more stakeholders, which is everyone has their own point of view, and so it was a very central role. And working in that team, I would definitely wanted to do some different type of exports to different countries and so forth. So again, trying to think about how am I going to add additional value, and with doing that came a lot of with that ambition came a lot of pushback, in regards to pushback from the refinery, or from the sales team, or from operations. So whenever I am trying to do something new, so I'm a very problem solving person. So I want to solve the problem. So if I'm going to initiate something and I put a proposal, and if if someone comes to me and says, okay, there's going to be some risks, okay, and we shouldn't be able to, we can't do that. I say, no problem, great. What is your alternative? And if they can't provide an alternative, then we're going to go with mine until they have a better solution. Now, I think that's worked well because I'm willing to hear the alternative. Yeah. But you can't just bring a risk with no solution. Yeah. So if not, we'll include that in the risk register. Yeah. But if there's no alternative, we have to charge forward. Yeah. So I think, without giving the specifics of that example, that's typically how I try and manage oppressors in terms of when I'm trying to put something new, a new initiative into the business is okay, so what would be your alternative? And usually sometimes they do bring alternatives and I actually listen and I take it on board, and it's great because they feel that they're also part of the problem solving. They're part of the team now. Sometimes they don't have solutions and then we go with what I've proposed.
That's an amazing answer. I mean, as you've said, you have a willingness to listen and hear other perspectives, but sometimes people are just making noise just for the sake of it. And I think it's a great way of, evaluating as well, whether they actually have something useful or whether it's just, we don't like the solution. So I think it's a great approach to take forward. When you have an idea, it's important to stand your ground, but it's also important to listen to other perspectives. And if your perspective cannot be bettered and a decision needs to be made and you need to go forward, then you've done what you can. That's great. Shifting gears a bit, we're going into the topic of personal branding now. So I'm at a stage in my career where I feel this urge to really strengthen my personal brand, and I wondered, as someone with such a strong set of mindsets, has personal branding been something that you've been conscious of throughout your career? And if so, what steps can people like myself take to strengthen our personal brand, but also be authentic about it?
So I'll be honest, personal branding has definitely been a term that's more used now compared to when I was, started off in the industry. So it wasn't something I thought about at the beginning because it's really about getting the skills. And actually that is a personal brand.
Exactly.
I didn't realize it was, but it is actually. So at the beginning, I think my personal brand would have been do a very good job and deliver. And then once you deliver, then you can go and ask, okay, this is what I would like. This is what I would like. I would like an MBA. I guess my personal brand at the beginning has definitely been delivery. That's probably a personal brand I'll say is consistent. Then I would challenge and say, what is your core skill? So one of my mentors advised that I should do something, and it's something that's quite common. You should do your core skill for 10,000 hours, which equates to, is it 10,000 hours? Or anyway, it equates to 10 years experience. Again, very old school. But I do think that's actually very good advice because it means that if you diversify too early and the market shifts, then you don't have a core skill to go back to. So it goes back to optionality. So it gives you, if you cement your core skill, then diversify later on, you've got something to go back to if it doesn't work out in that new kind of area that you want to work in. So that would be, I guess, one, is make sure you understand your core skill. Delivery, it goes without saying, but over deliver, is important. And then I think the rest are it depends on your values and it's more personal to you. So you need to, my advice would be trying to understand what would make you happy and why. And once you understand that, then you can now enclose that within your personal brands. But first you have to deliver well, over deliver. And then you have to, what was the other one? I said delivery and...
so you said delivery and you talked about core skill, like
your core
refining
skill.
it. I love the concept of 10,000 hours relating to 10 years. It's a skill talked about in Atomic Habits as well, the book, and probably other books. So I love that. That's one of my biggest takeaways from that answer. And I love knowing your values, what's going to make you happy at the end of the day. This is a 40, 50 year career we're talking about. So you do want to do something, you want to be known for something that you truly represent and resonates with you. Great answers. Love that. As a senior leader, I'm sure you get a lot of exposure to other senior leaders. and even across your 20-year career, what would you say is the single most crucial mindset for leadership? I'd imagine lots of people watching aspiring into senior leadership roles. So from your observation over these years, what would you say is the single most crucial mindset?
I think with lead, so I like to lead the way I like to be led. So it's really more so how, someone said to me, it's very emotional. So I'm going to use their tagline, but I would have phrased it slightly differently. So one of my other mentors said, leadership is about how one feels when they're in your presence, which is similar because it still lends itself to leading how you would like to be led. So it's very personal. It's very authentic. And it's open. It's not with authority, but there's a little bit of authority in there. But it's not charging with authority. That's more of an undertone. It's more about understanding, the person and what they want to achieve and their values. So it's definitely way more personal, and then trying to give advice to help that person. So so I think to answer, it sounds very soft, huh?
No, I think it's really sharp and precise, actually.
But in terms of leadership, again, when the leaders I have enjoyed working so much with are the ones who allow me to speak up, who they enjoy a challenge, actually. So it's not that their way goes. No, what's your view, Taiwo? Allows me to be a little bit charismatic, in the room. And also leaders that take bold risks, obviously calculated risks, because it makes it a little bit fun. So I've had great leaders in working in the North Sea and in trading and in in the US, technical and in strategy. And what's been consistent with those leaders are those skills, and then based on that, obviously that talks to me. That's the leadership I would try to emulate.
I love that. I think it's a great balance. You said authority, but not charging with authority undertone, but really being personable, being open, being accessible. It's great. You mentioned authenticity as well, and before we move on to the last question, I just want to build on that. Authenticity can be quite challenging to foster in the workplace, especially for maybe some people more than others. For women of ethnic minority backgrounds, how do you bring your full self or authentic self to the places that you find yourself in the workplace? Again,
this is a very it's a question that's more common now compared to when I started.
Yeah.
So I think being authentic. It's I don't think we can bring our whole selves, if I'm being honest. I don't think we can be our whole selves to the office.
I share that mindset to a certain extent.
I think we can bring parts of ourselves. So there's a part of myself that wants to achieve that. I'm going to bring that. There's a part of myself that is a little bit outspoken. Now I'm going to bring that. There's parts of myself that wants to achieve, and I work weekends back when back in the day because I wanted to get something done. So I'll bring that. So I would say, but again, before bringing your whole self, you have to deliver. So deliver and deliver and then deliver again. And once you deliver, then you've got enough confidence. And you've paid your dues to a certain extent to say, okay, now I can bring a little bit more of myself, but we're still going to be professional. And this is not a sorority or a society. So it's a working environment. So we have to be professional. But after you pay your dues and you've got a certain level of years of experience, then you should feel confident enough to bring aspects of yourself to ensure you're not going to get railroads, you're not going to get sidetracked. That type of confidence, I would say, is quite important. It's very important in terms of longevity in the sector.
Amazing answers. I love that. So build a foundation of excellence and being able to deliver, and understanding that you need to dial up and down depending on the situation, the environment, aspects of yourself. So you're still being authentic, you know. It doesn't mean that, oh, you're not being yourself, but knowing which situations and which aspects of yourself to dial up and dial down depending on what the situation calls for. I think that's great. And I'm moving now on to the final question. I can't believe how quickly time has flown. If there is one mindset you could download into the mind of every young professional, or maybe someone even feeling stuck in their career, what would it be?
Bad things happen, you know, but mourn quickly, but mourn, get that emotion out, and then get on with it. Because the one statement I will say that should carry with you is there's more than one way to the top of the mountain. And if one way doesn't work out, find another route. If that way doesn't work out, find another route. Continuously find multiple routes. Continuously plan, you know, in terms of the future, and ensure that, you know, with that, you know, with that type of mindset, that would definitely give longevity and a long-term lasting career. So I would say
I love that answer, because I think it's so representative of what's going on, what we're seeing in the world. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Exactly.
So much is changing. So I think being comfortable with things going wrong. And I love the fact that you said, you know, get on with it, but before you do, allow yourself to mourn, allow yourself to get the emotion out, but don't stay stuck in the emotion. Amazing. What a way to round up the interview. Thank you to everyone who sat by and, you know, watched this amazing episode. I've learned so much, and I can imagine you have as well. Please make sure you drop your takeaways in the comment section. We're going to link Taiwo's LinkedIn profiles as well, so you guys can get in touch with her and ask her any questions that you may have. She's a mentor. So yeah, thank you so much. And until the next episode, bye.